you both.
Thank you.
So you said in the introduction, Athina, about your slow turtle-like process. Can you take us back to the beginning of this? This is, I think as people know, based on a book, which Grace from maybe 10 years or so ago, the book?
Yeah.
And how, I'm just curious how it came to you and how you responded to the book.
Yeah, I mean, actually the fact that it came to me instead of originated from me made it faster. So, Jocelyn Barnes, who is the initial writer who adapted Jim's novel, and Rebecca O'Brien and Michael Weber, they came to me asking me to direct it. But you know, it's impossible for me to direct something when I'm not really working with the script and the original material. It's the first thing that I was asked to adapt. So it was the pandemic, so we worked, you know, Josh and I, you know, back and forth, Zooms. Anyway, it just, you know, we just kept amazing conversations about a script about a film that's all about doing nothing and working with the main character who does nothing. So how do you do that? You know, and it is a literally unadaptable book in a way because it's all the interior monologue of Walt. No scenes, no dialogue. And the thing is that, you know, Josh and my producers knew that I always rehearse and the script changes quite a lot once I cast and so I went to Caleb and I said, how do you feel about being a character who does nothing throughout the whole movie? And
I don't think I do nothing. There's a lot of business, as they call it in the biz. A lot of business. Sean reached out to me saying...
Sean Price Williams.
Yeah, Sean Price Williams. He was here with us tonight. He said, I hate doing this, but you got to check this out, you know. And then I read the script and met Athina in my kitchen. She came to the kitchen. And as I've said before, talked more to my girlfriend than me. And
I was very shy.
and after asking my father, for whatever reason, said yes. But you said I didn't say yes. You said it happened later or something.
Yeah, he never actually said yes. We met a couple of times.
Oh, we shook hands.
The kitchen sessions, I kept going back thinking, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? And in the third or fourth kitchen session, he said, so I'm starting dialect coaching tomorrow, right? So that's how I knew he was doing it.
And then that's also when the Harvest Family Band started to, Ian and I started jamming once they were talking, you know, and we were clearly not needed. I think this was the second or third kitchen session. So Ian and I, who worked on the film, we started messing about on some music.
And that's how the Harvest Family Band
yeah.
created.
I want to come back to the music later, but first I want to ask you maybe to elaborate on this idea of a character who does nothing. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think the main reason why I was attracted, you know, once I went back to the book and I kept trying to understand Walt and the world.
You should say the book is very interior. It's kind of all...
Yeah, there's like no scenes, no dialogue. It's all through his point of view, interior monologue, as he's trying to make sense out of everything, you know, with conflicting stories. The book actually takes it further. For basically anything that happens, any So it's he's kind of like hearing about stuff that happens, or he's assuming something that might happen. So he's actually never present. I mean, we kind of like, I'm not sure what Jim will think of that. He hasn't seen the film yet, but we changed it a bit because he had to be present in some things. Yeah, so the big inspiration for Harvest, from the way I entered Harvest, and the only way I could make sense of this was, as most of my work, a combination between ancient Greek tragedy, where basically there's always the main character, the tragic character, is the one who knows less than anyone else, and the chorus, which is trying to understand and inform the main character's knowledge, or to be antagonistic with him or her. So, ancient Greek tragedy and 70s cinema, anti-hero, losers, like no one saves the day, there is no redemption, there is no catharsis, there's just stasis. So I felt like for a film that it's a very simple story. There was nothing really to work on the story. It's a reenactment of a story that keeps happening since then, like exactly the same story. So yes, it's a very predictable story, and that's exactly what we were doing. A story that everyone recognizes, and what it means to observe, to consume information and do nothing. In a way, I was interested in this sort of like pre-lapsarian world, before we even understand what sin is, or complicity.
In some ways simple, but in some ways not. I think, this entire world that is found, built, imagined, that if you can talk a little bit first about location is very important in this film. Maybe just start with that, finding the place where you start.
It was during the pandemic, and the book is taking place in England, in the beginning of the Enclosure Act. And, sort of like, but I knew immediately that I didn't want to position it in time or place. So, and I also knew that I really wanted to get away from sort of like the English countryside historical drama. So I started looking at locations on Google Map, because I couldn't go anywhere. And I was talking with Rebecca O'Brien, our producer, who is Scottish, and I said, why don't we do it in Scotland, like in the western part of Scotland, which, in a strange way, it's like my idea of making a western, and so it's like a western in the original locus of a western. So we just I managed to be able to travel, and we got in a car, and we started going up and down the coast, just her and I. And through a fortuitous, it was like destiny, and I'm not gonna get into that. Like everything in this film has been a destiny for a film that it was all about bringing community together. We found this incredible place. We had very little money to do it. The settings were there, and we knew that there was very little stuff that we would do. I didn't want it to be whatever, like historically correct. I wasn't interested in that. I loved those red roofs. Then we realized that red steel roofs were actually had started being used from the 17th century. So and then we spent a very long time casting the villagers. There is not a single extra. Everyone is from there, farmers and people who live there, and they were so invested in actually making a film about the beginning of the end of the land that they're occupying. And it was very important to us that actually we were going to sow the field in a land that hadn't been sown since then, since the 16th century, since the 18th century actually, which is when the Scottish clearances happened. So we found heirloom seeds, and we went in March and we sowed the land with barley and flax and rye, and then we plowed, and that's what we ended up harvesting in the end of August, all of us.
And when we got there, one of the fields was looking really quite sad. And at first there was a little bit of a freak out of, are the fields going to make it for shooting? Then it was perfect, because then that was also pushing the people when it came to the reality of, in the beginning of the film, of what they're facing, which is the end of something.